been in as well. So one thing that when I came across you it was I basically just had foot surgery and I was looking for ways to train that because it was during COVID as well. I was looking for ways to train where it didn't require weight, it just required me. And I came across your stuff through like ring muscle ups, skin the cats, stuff like that. So I started to learn these bodyweight exercises and I was like, why have I been lifting weights all this time when actually I am enough weight to provide stimulus for not growth, but strength, being able to get into different ranges. I was like, fucking hell, this is a revelation. What's going on? So where did the body weight stuff come into it for you?
I think kind of like most people, who get into the movement realm, get impacted by the McDaddy, Ido Portal at some point through his YouTube video. And I remember distinctly back in probably start of 2015 or end of 2014, just before I moved to Australia, I was like, just came across and then I was just like, man, that's exactly what's going through my head, the way he was talking about it, XYZ kind of thing. And, I was already into a lot of bodyweight type of stuff there, with the TRX and things like that. I would go down to, Clapham Commons, kind of like the Cali bar, whatever kind of stuff, and try to bust out muscle ups. Obviously CrossFit was obviously well and truly in the scene and, the gymnastic component from there as well. So the bodyweight was kind of, something that I was always interested in and I was sort of kind of doing. But then, when I saw kind of the movement culture type of work and that, people are fucking one arm handstand and doing weird shit like, lizard crawls and like this locomotion thing or whatever, which was still kind of pretty primitive back in the day, effectively, compared to what it is now, I was like super intrigued. And then when I started to kind of do it, I was like, fuck, this is really hard. Right. And I'm like, and then it was like one of those age old things where we're like trying to fucking distill things, trying to figure out like, well, how do I make this, actually achievable, kind of for me. Right. So I'm trying to like, I don't have the flexibility yet. I didn't know anything about flexibility back then either, kind of, and then I didn't want to kind of get a divorce from the strength training that I was doing. Right. Because I was like, no, I want to be still yoked, like a 16-year-old Vic, kind of. So there was this, huge discord in terms of the styles and modalities of training that I was doing or wanting to do. But that's also, something that I had to walk through, right? As I said before, I don't know what I don't know. And it was already kind of trying to dive into so many different things and doing fucking half-ass shit, that I was like only obviously seeing progress over a short period of time, of course, because my body's never done this kind of thing, and it's like suddenly from going from shit to like, all right, I sort of understand it, sort of thing, but never really kind of like good enough or like really fucking excelling at it. And then I just kind of came to Australia and didn't have obviously aim for another 2 years, and still working on one-on-ones and whatnot. It was all outdoors, right? So, obviously kind of, I had my hands on obviously external loading, so weights and stuff like that. But the people that I was working with as well, I was like, fuck, you don't need weights. You don't need weights right now. It's like, you're not even fucking aware of your body and you can't fucking control or influence your body right now. Like, trying to fucking hold on to something, external is just fucking like not great, especially for upper body and things like that, right? I think lower body does something else, but so that was the realization, I guess, obviously at the same time, I was doing jiu-jitsu, I was in love with it. And so I started to kind of basically buckle down, so I used to have like, kind of like I call this, the word project effectively. And I was like, cool, well, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time to kind of just see, like what's like, what can I do? And that's when the project mindset started to kind of set in for me. Effectively, the way I view training is like, obviously we need to kind of give the body the right stress and the hope that body adapts to that said stress, right? It's pretty simple, straightforward. It's, kind of based in science. But the brain, the primal brain for that matter, it's like, well, I want fucking everything right now, kind of, and we try to chase too many things at the same time. So kind of being very disciplined in terms of like, okay, well, my focal point is this is my priority, which is only one, maybe two things at a time, not like five things like it normally was, right? And to be able to then kind of truly see myself, kind of excel and like, kind of my, oh shit, I'm actually getting better at this, kind of, and then, okay, let me just kind of put this down and go touch a cold piece of bark because I haven't lifted for so heavy for so long. I'm shrinking, like, let me put some time there. I'm like, oh shit, actually I'm getting way better because I have this available to me now, that sort of thing. So that's kind of, I guess, the start of, kind of working this project mindset effectively, so to a point now where, kind of rather than dedicating, whatever, 6 weeks or 12 weeks in certain things, I tend to kind of look at it as a yearly investment now. So my primary goal is like, cool, this year I want to really truly excel at this particular thing, which becomes like the anchoring for my major programming. As an example, this year was around squatting. So like I've been squatting for the majority of the year. I love squatting anyway. But obviously in there's a dump was halfway through the year, so I had to kind of make sure deadlift was part of it, kind of thing. And obviously I love my body weight stuff, so I had to make sure kind of at some time in the year that I was still kind of pursuing the high level stuff. But obviously during let's say developing my squats and lifting in particular, doing being in the middle of strength program, I was able to obviously kind of put a little bit of volume type of work in for the upper body, right? So again, just kind of planning ahead a little bit and being able to manage myself and things like that. I've just started to kind of do jiu-jitsu again, so that's a new kind of thing that's kind of back into my life after taking a break from 3 years. So to me, I'm now starting to kind of figure out, cool, like jiu-jitsu is the priority, getting back on the mat. So I want to make sure that I'm creating the best environment for myself to make sure I get the most out of that. Without obviously kind of getting a divorce from my other goals effectively. So at the moment, I'm in this land where I'm trying to figure out what sort of stress can my body handle, and not with the mindset of like putting on the edge so it breaks down and blows up in my face, but rather kind of like, cool, like, how does it affect my my performance, kind of in different things.
So then you have this, like you push play a lot. And for me, that became important in my training as well, because I was like, why do we stop doing this as we get older? Like what you preach is essentially we should never stop this idea of play and free movement, and then you incorporate it into warm-ups, and not just yourself but also with the clients at the gym. So why is it so important to you to keep this idea of play that we had as a kid into adulthood and then forever on?
Oh man, that's a really good question, and there are so many different ways we can kind of talk about this. But let's start with the most obvious one kind of thing. No one accidentally gets strong, right? Kind of we need to kind of win by design effectively, right? No one wins by accident. It's very rare, right? So in the industry that we're in, everything's so like science-based and evidence this and that sort of thing. And that's where it's kind of sort of heading, right? It's so regimented and so structured and stuff like that. And then, I'd be the first one to put my hand up and say like, I'm definitely part of that, kind of, I definitely believe in structure. But that being said, kind of unstructured work, there is this certain entity about it, kind of play such a powerful thing that, kind of we as adults, kind of, or even kids these days, really kind of, don't have enough in our life effectively, right? So the way I view play is it comes from a plate of, inquiry, right? Kind of like, you're not thinking like, okay, A, B, C, or point A and point B sort of thing. It's more reactive, right? And you're responding to what's happening in front of you. You're in this particular state effectively, right? And the really cool thing when we think about play is that you're always willing to try, things that you probably wouldn't if you kind of gave it some more thought effectively, right? To get into certain positions or to react or whatever kind of thing. And the really cooler thing is like, if it doesn't work, you're probably not going to try it again, but you're going to try find another way. All right. And if something like, doesn't quite work, but it was something there, like you're probably going to try and do that shit again and try be more playful sort of thing. Right. And there isn't anything like structured that allows us to do that. Right. So to me, kind of being playful, it's a state of mind almost, right? Kind of like effectively, say like, stiff body, stiff mind kind of thing, playful mind, kind of it allows you to be malleable effectively. And that's what white belts are effectively. Kind of, where we're trying to figure shit out. We're trying to problem solve, right? But to have fun at the same time, like it's a really nice way of framing it up, But coming back to, the actual basing into, let's say, science as well in a little bit, we train people most of the time super early in the morning or, at the end of the day, right? When they've just woken up or they've just finished the day. For them to kind of, come into a space and effectively stop thinking, what's going to happen or that, what happened today, kind of to change their state of mind into more like, okay, cool, I got to be present. Okay, now I got to, be reactive, responsive, and effectively kind of do the, the workout thing, kind of out of the head, and more kind of, it's such an amazing, kind of scene effectively when we kind of, play, before our sessions. Like everybody becomes this fucking, this kid, like, kind of, they become more inquisitive, kind of the work they kind of produce after that, kind of is super powerful. Does that make sense? Kind of
Yeah.
like, and we often say to kind of people, because in my eyes it's true, like, how you play, how you play is how you play in life. Kind of, so if you're not open to playing, if you're fucking super competitive, if you're like super grumpy, or like you're super like, like, oh, I don't think, like that's probably a reflection of who you are as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%.
And I think
100%.
bringing that back into the real world, kind of, I think through play, we can actually create opportunities where, kind of we can teach, so many important aspects of life, and that obviously will trickle down to training as well. Things like, when I say social intelligence, right? If you're a fucking savage at handball, but somebody's so uncoordinated, like you're not gonna just fucking keep hitting winners, right? Like you're gonna bring it down to their level. You're gonna be able to try something for yourself. You become, you know what I mean? Because when we're competitive, like we're just fucking like trying to, be competitive, right? We're gonna be doing our best kind of thing. We're not really gonna be, again, inquisitive. It's more aggressive play. So there are different kind of plays too. And the beautiful thing is, like, coming back to that analogy, kind of the basic, kind of, which is super subjective. Like play is also subjective. You know what I mean? Kind of like, so yeah, man. Like, I truly believe in play. I think it's such a important state of mind that we need to kind of keep, and really kind of for us to bring everything together. It's a nice way to express all the structured work as well. We often say kind of, you don't playfully get strong. You know what I mean? Kind of, however, kind of, if you're strong, you can play pretty well too.
Yeah, the idea. What I like about it is that, like you said, you can, when you come in and someone goes, right, we're doing this drill, like this playful drill, you instantly have to switch off from what's gone on in the day or what bad things have gone on in the week. You can't think about them because you've got to think about this. Like, for example, the drill you use with the stick, where people will move, one person will move the stick and the other person's got to avoid it. All you can focus on is moving around that stick and how your body can move into positions that it's not used to, how it feels. Oh, maybe this isn't too good. Actually, maybe that's something I can work on later. You got to think about these things. And then also from like the science point of view, where it's preparing. So someone who say has a desk job, 9 to 5, they're sat down all day. If they're going to do deadlifts, you need them to be physically prepared. And that's helping wake up, the body to be like, right, now's the time we can go and we can lift these things, rather than coming straight from the desk to the gym, a little warm up that's maybe not done much, and all of a sudden they tweak the back. It completely changed it.
For sure. And this is the whole intent of play, right? It is simply there in a very simple terms to stimulate the body and the mind, right? That's at the simplest form, right? Kind of, and again, we can obviously put certain parameters in there and we can dictate what we're looking for. So like, just using that stick game as we call it like Dao Zen Archer effectively. We can put constraints. It's like, cool, you can't move your legs, just the spine and your hands and the head as an example. Right, or the person actually leading with the dowel. It's like, hey, we can play downstairs, but they can't pick their feet up, right? So their feet are glued to the ground. Now that's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? As opposed to less kind of, more capoeira style. It's like, okay, now you got to avoid the dowel. We're going to go a little bit of, higher tempo, and you can be on the ground for this or whatever. So there are so many different ways we can present same ideas, or even better, we can start to layer these concepts and ideas together. Does that make sense? So like actually we can make that play, dare I say, more structured, right? Kind of, it's like, putting these parameters in, but again, enough, there are parameters in there with the idea or the view of like, having enough freedom for the person to actually do the thing as well, right? Kind of, I'm trying to think what's a really good example. We play something called like a handball on a box as an example kind of thing, right? One of the things we always say with our play is like, yes, we want to be able to be competitive. We want to be competitive in a manner where that other person has an opportunity, right? So, kind of, in other words, saying like, don't be a dick, right? You know, don't bounce the ball so high that it comes over the shoulders. That's a dick move, right? You know, if you're like hitting like clear winners and which was unplayable, that's also a dick move. Don't be a dick, you know, kind of. And you know, and it's all obviously tongue in cheek, but it's also kind of, you know, it's a really cool way to, you know, kind of, you know, talk to people and communicate with people, right? Especially those competitive people, you know, kind of like, hey, let's see if we can outskill somebody as opposed to just outwork, right? You know, kind of as opposed to those people who may not be skilled. It's like, cool, let's outwork this person. You know, so it's like it's a completely different headspace effectively.
Now, if you enjoyed this clip, please make sure to check out the full-length episode on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, as well as checking out other clips and other episodes over on the YouTube channel and the Spotify and Apple Podcast networks.